The Icons of Real Estate Podcast. Are you ready to learn the proven money-making secrets from top-producing icon agents? Ready to skyrocket your business? This podcast is for you. Tune in every week with your host, Tomasz Fonseca, and find out how to implement proven strategies to 10 times your business, from $3 million to $30 million in just 12 months. Brought to you by the Masters at Real Estate Marketing, Arter SEO.
Welcome to Icons of Real Estate. I'm your host, Patty Teal. Today's guest is Kaylee McMahon. She's the founder of Apartment Queen Investments, which has purchased over $70 million in multifamily real estate as general partner, construction manager, asset manager, fund and key principal in Texas and Arizona. To date, they have raised over $6.7 million for apartment acquisitions. Kaylee sold $3 million as a real estate agent before transitioning into her full-time apartment principal role. She has done hard money lending, passively investing in notes, and collaborates with women who really want to create passive income for life. Welcome, Kaylee.
Thank you for having me today. I appreciate it.
I'm just thrilled to have such a young woman who's had such great success so early in life. It's very, very inspiring. Would you share your story, first of all, and how you got to the point that you're at now? Just take your time and tell me what interests you in apartments or real estate and how you ended up here.
Let's start with specifics.
Okay.
Like from the dawn of time when I was born, how I got it's quite the story, and I'm writing another book right now on that.
Oh, are you? Very cool.
Because I now finally can actually legally talk about a lot of things, which is really freeing. Specifically, in what area do you want my story?
Well, I guess we don't have to start when you were 2 years old or anything, unless you wanted to, but mainly it's where did the bug to be interested in real estate or investing in apartments? Just how did you get here?
Yeah, so I started off in real estate specifically. I had my own business and realized that there's a lot of things that lacking a business degree that I was going to need to scale that thing. And a friend of mine brought that to my attention, said, why don't you go sell some homes, take that cash and be able to put that into marketing, advertising, systems, people, etc. And there's more I know now. I said, yeah, that's a good idea. So I got into real estate and realized that contracts and legal documents were scary and decided to start off with leasing. So essentially that was how I got into getting exposed to what's out there and networking at different networking groups. Propelio was the first one I kind of got involved in once I went through the layers of leasing, condo sales, leasing, and then apartments, then condo sales, and then kind of in order to me that made sense. Let's do a little bit more, houses that are like in the $250,000 range, houses closer to $1 million range, seeing how all those clients work with me, if this is something I want to do, what's a better fit for me, and then getting into flipping homes and doing investments. So getting exposure to what was available in front of me came from Propelio. So this was a network. And this is something that I want to say out loud for sure, is that whatever you're looking to get started in something, I could say that my progress has been great at this point in time, but it could have been exponentially faster, and it could have been protected a lot better by having a powerful network. So that's something that I find that women and minorities tend to lack, is that powerful networks typically come from 1, your neighborhood, 2, going to an Ivy League school such as Harvard, 3, having a Fortune 500 company that you work for whenever you graduate from school. And so you could then get get the ability to network with C-suite level individuals and their families and successful people, right? And typically successful people, there's money that follow them. And so money also breeds the ability to have resources such as legal support, being able to have support with others that are going through the same thing, resources with people that have already gone through that, come out on the other end, et cetera, et cetera. So one thing I would say is this network was my first network that I ever really got involved with. I was a graduate from Texas A&M University. And so that was a network that I really to this day still haven't really gone back to. I mean, there's a couple of times when I did my first fundraise for an apartment deal that I did dip back into people's parents, because I realized that I was surrounded by people that didn't have any net worth, let alone high net worth, to be able to raise funds for these deals. And so kind of going back in that network, that's been the only time really. Because I'd have to find some subgroup in that network that really applies to what I'm doing in life right now, or even just things that I enjoy. That's now kind of my focus, because you can do both. You can enjoy flying, for example, and then also being able to do real estate. So I got started by being exposed to a network. It was called Propelio. It was an investor-funded free education network. And what it did was it brought together women and men of all different niches in real estate so that you could get exposure to what are the possibilities. I can buy that piece of land and I can own the mineral rights on it. I can flip a, complex that's an apartment complex. I can purchase and do triple net lease. There's all kinds of different niches, assignments, wholesaling, real estate brokerage is a real retail agent, which is how I got started, and much more. So getting exposure to what was possible and those that have already done it was super key to the next level, I suppose, and being able to then get my process documented or my journey documented, going from leasing to these different levels of home sales to investing and becoming a broker. And what did that look like, and being able to show other people as I went through it, how my experience was and resources I had to pull on, complications they were going to run into, how to deal with certain things. So that network was really how I got started. And then when I was at one of the meetups that this network put together, there was an individual named Will who was speaking that night. And on the itinerary, it said, I think 750 million assets under management in, I forgot how much length of time, got his investors 2,000% basically return on their investment. And, you're reading that going, holy Hannah, that's amazing. But, how do I do that? So that was what I decided at that moment in time. That is me in 5 years. That is what I want. And here's the other thing, was that person, I didn't know him, like really, know him, right. But the perception that I picked up was they were pretty humble, not full of themselves. They were kind of like, shy and didn't really want to be on stage, didn't really love talking about their success, which is a shame. And he's done so much better since then. I can see him being able to be proud of what he's done. And that person was someone who also had other purposes in life. So him and his wife at the time had put together he still is an angel capitalist, but put together a company essentially for doing dental work and cleft palate surgery on children who had cleft palate deformities in their face in the Philippines. And wow. So that was something that he was able to enroll his investors in, and probably other partners. I don't know all the details, but I'm kind of mimicking that path at this point in my life, where it's like, okay, doing these deals, great. Now it's time to do them well. So we need to vertically integrate. And so this person also built a warehouse, which is what I'm about to do right now, because we're having those challenges. And point is then at that point in time, they're able to use their celebrity for good and saying, hey, got, investors, I have done this with you and this with you and this with you. Now it's time to do something for the world. And I saw myself doing that. And so that's when I made that decision. I'm going to be just like that. But I would like to actually meet this person, because you have an idea and you put it on your vision board, and then you go chase that for 30 years or whatever. And then you get there and you're like, why did I do this? So getting involved in real estate came with that network, or a powerful network, meeting someone that you felt much in alignment with. And so for me, wanting to serve a mission and serve women was mine, just a little different than his. And so it's like, well, what are the mechanics to get there? Truly, how does it work? And so when you have exposure to someone or a group of people who've already done it, like that's the real scenario of like how to have that network and how to really get started and have a blueprint for where to go next. So long answer, but essentially it was exposure to that network, and then that person that to this day still we're in contact as I'm formulating my proposals to banks, on what my cash flow projections and balance sheet projections going to look like. It's based on their warehouse before he sold it off. So it's actually like located here in DFW. Here's the expenses. Very, very helpful and powerful relationship that prompted me to get into multifamily, because it started to make sense as part of the journey up.
Wow, you're quite an impressive lady. I mean, that's wonderful. You don't just want to do this for yourself. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but you have a goal to really help others, and you found somebody that could kind of guide you as you follow their path. Now, did you say you still hadn't met this person?
Yeah, well, we have hung out a couple of times. So we've met for sure. Mm-hmm. And then now they live in the Philippines, I think half the time, and come back occasionally. But and then to get me into multifamily, you have to have, it's just crazy. It's all about relationships. Like I say that, but it really is. Like, you are not going to buy an apartment. unless you are buddies with a broker, or the broker's wife, whatever way you want to get in, and then someone's got to be able to vouch for you and your track record and what you can pull off as far as fundraising to even get in. Like, people won't touch you with a stick if they don't know that you can close, basically. So, or your team can close. So that person then introduced me to someone who is actively investing in multifamily. And that person is just just a wonderful person that really gave me the belief for the first time that I was worthy of someone signing on the dotted line to do a loan with me. Or that person actually loaned me money because I had a transaction that was in limbo for a while and we needed to earnest money, and that was coming from me. And I ended up being able to pay him back in a week, but just even my family wouldn't even allow me to borrow their cars growing up, or like anything that they owned. It was just stuff, So it was just amazing to see that somewhat of a stranger like believes in me enough and who I am and my quality personality and my ethics. And really at the end of the day, we ended up getting into things together in business that were super uncomfortable. But what comes out is the true you in that time. So because I was like, what do I do for this person? And you realize, like, I want to share with you that when you have someone that wants to help you, and you've spent your time to get to know them enough that they're not going to hurt you, but they want to help you, it's usually because they see a little bit of themselves in you, and they wish that they were there for themselves at some point in time. And so there's a huge payoff, even now, that I get from being able to help somebody and say, oh my God, let me just put the proverbial jacket over the puddle for you. And that makes them so happy. But in the crux of everything being extremely stressful and us going through some really challenging times in business, which is kind of hard, part of the deal when you stick your neck out there, and you just go for it, was that we both stood for justice at the end of the day. So in the moment of going through things, it really brought up both of our personalities. And so that person is definitely like a friend for life. Him and his wife have supported me. But like I was saying, it's just all about relationships. And so, but I mean, like, real relationships, not like you're going to go get a check from someone and be friends with them long enough to be able to deal with them and get there. I mean, like a real intimate relationship where you see the other person for, like, I've been to your house. I see how your office looks. I understand how your brain works. I understand what you're struggling with in your life. I see how you treat your children, like just everything about them, because actions will always show you, how they're going to treat you.
Wow. That's so honest. I really love that, because I don't hear it very often that the relationships are so important, or you hear it, but not the kind of relationship you're talking about, where you really get to know that person and you really know them to the point that they trust you. And otherwise, you're not going to get your start. So that is really important, I think, for people to know. So do you find someone who you think is doing what you want to do, and then you kind of pursue the relationship? How did they organically come about?
Now it's changed a little bit, because I found out after I do a lot of international travel, and I'm about to leave next week to do the same, because I tend to learn a lot, like not only my personal growth, goes like this, but then I believe that your financial growth and your business network, et cetera, growth happens when your personal growth happens. I think that they're just totally interrelated. So when I go, things change. So I learned the first time I went to Europe, a while ago, I learned that my human design type is a manifester. So someone like me is somebody that speaks something into existence, and then essentially all I have to do is enroll other people in that idea, and then essentially obviously back it up with a track record, and then it's a done deal. Like, you've got people. So that's been my strength, that I really haven't known how to just pull back all the millions of other things I do to just be there and, assign everything else to other very capable people, more capable than me. So I guess when it comes to learning, like being a manifester and having to focus on my human design type of making big key relationships. What was the question one more time?
Oh gosh. I think it was about the relationships and how you purposefully develop them.
How I go for them. So now it's totally pivoted, where instead of being, so when I met this person, they found me in a crowd, and that actually freaked me out. Now that I have a security company, I would have never done what I did at this point in time. Now that I find myself being valuable and I need to protect myself, it's different. But at the time I was just like, whatever. But realizing that what is hurting me in my life is actually chasing money, deals, relationships, people, a missing mother in my life. Like, they didn't go that deep to go with, like, what are you missing? But it was like, he was like, it's very obvious that I can just see you just spinning, just chase. And every time you chase something, it's going to hurt you, or it's going to turn out in a not in a good way. So it took until the lockdown to be like to stare at myself every day, to really soak that in and to realize that they were right. That instead of chasing, I was then at that time forced to be resilient and look at relationships that I had already built and those that have already been there for me, to go back to them and to pour my energy and my love and my resources and my brain and all the things that I do offer into those people versus chasing new things. And also, it doesn't take nearly as much energy, electrical and your time, to go back to those other people that have already like proven themselves to you, So I'm such a good hunter that I did it for a while. And then that's what I've done, is just totally pull back. When I go to conferences, I don't approach people at all anymore. When it comes to like LinkedIn, if somebody else comes to me, like I've got this family office that they always seem to think of me in something that I need without me telling them, it's really cool. Then I go, okay. And they go, you need to contact this person. You need to contact this person, but they're doing it because they're already connected to that person. They already know me. And they're saying, this is going to help you in this thing that you're struggling with. And so then I will go reach out to the person again, giving a reference, like where I came from. I'm not from outer space. And usually that helps obviously with the warm intro, but I don't go on LinkedIn and go like just talk to people anymore. I have to watch my behavior, my actions, and my thoughts. So my thoughts tell me I don't reach out anymore. And that's not completely the truth. You'll watch my Facebook and you'll see me do live videos where I will share exciting things. I'll share highs in life. And so that also puts information out into the universe about what's going on with me, versus letting maybe a film crew or letting somebody else post something where it's kind of like, later after the fact, reporting what happened, which is actually a little bit safer, because then instead of that post being driven by emotions and me not watching what I'm saying or the information that I'm disclosing, which I need to, be aware of to protect myself. It's so anyway, point is that, being able to let things come to me has been important in everything, whether it's videos, text messages, in person, at a conference, even like on a plane. Like I used to just like as a kid, because I loved connecting with people. I would just, hi, I'm Kaylee. I'm going to Australia. You know what I mean? Like just approach random people, and you don't know their intent. You don't know, who they are. So essentially there's got to be a level of mutual interest. And then kind of asking them questions that are not surface, and kind of seeing if there is a relationship after that, the behavior, does it match up with the words? Or sometimes you can actually just like in a short quiz in that conversation, if you let them talk more than you can pick up on things that are inconsistent with what they literally just said. And you're like, just take a note of that, keep adding to your checklist, because people will show you who they are. And then I don't have to pursue anymore, but sometimes I find some incredible people that they like me, I like them. They do everything they say they're going to do, vice versa. So like those are the people that I will pursue in a sense of, we've already talked, I've already seen their actions, and I will then pitch an idea and say, you know what, I've been thinking about you and I've been watching, what's important to you, what motivates you. And I think that I get motivated or need this, and you also, so it's the same thing. So let's collaborate together and help each other succeed. So it's a process now versus just going out there, and searching for everything.
I just love that. So you have become a master manifester. I mean, we all manifest, but sometimes it's not what we want, or we do it by accident, but it sounds like you have really developed this ability. I mean, I so didn't know this interview was going to go this direction, but it's one of my favorite topics. I love Abraham and Jerry Hicks and listening to those kinds of things. Were there some teachers in particular that guided you to get this mindset so that you're going downstream all the time? You're not struggling. It's just coming to you. That's what the masters always say happens, but so often we start doing, and don't really trust it. So how do you trust it?
I mean, sometimes it's hard. I'm not going to lie. Like, there are always things in my week that pop up that are really uncomfortable. And so that's stuff that I spend time trying to every day. I didn't fully today. I just kind of took the thoughts out of my dream, wrote them down, and said, I'll come back to this later and I'll think through the whole deal, because I'm going to forget what was either bothering me or I bumped up against that was uncomfortable. But kind of reflecting instead of projecting, that really helps. Could you ask that question in another way?
Well, I guess what I was asking, I actually don't remember exactly the question, but you have become a purposeful manifester. And it's difficult very often because
Oh,
when things aren't going so well, we get a little desperate and we start doing. But you
how
have
do you?
learned that it will come to you. And how do you develop that trust? And are there any particular teachers that helped you?
Yeah. So how did I chill? Like
Yeah. How'd you chill?
part of it makes it, it makes it pretty difficult whenever, I'll be honest with you, I think I have a much easier time than other people, being able to go deep and think about like what I'm doing and my words and my actions, etc., and slow down because I don't have mouths to feed. I don't have a husband. I don't have, I've got a dog, and she's kind of on her way out of life right now. So it's become a little bit more than normal, but I mean, relatively, I really just can kind of just follow what I need to follow. And
Right.
part of it's trusting, but not so like, for example, if you're sitting down and you're like, oh, like I'm going to manifest candy falling out of the sky, it's like, oh, if you're not asking for candy, it's not going to come. Like
Mhm.
you have to do some activity. But the thing is I've stopped hunting people. So, people hold everything that you want in life. Like you've got to go with or through a person or whatever to be able to get that piece of property or to get that loan or to, climb a mountain. I've got to go to REI to go get a backpack to put my stuff in it. Like there's always a person that you have to be involved with to do anything in life. And so it's just that there's so many portals or people to be able to get to that end result. And so for me, it's just about being clear with who my people are, and then looking for them. And sometimes it's hard being impatient because you need to go make money. You know what I mean? You got people to feed, etc. But I think that if you're surrounded by the right people who only want to be like really in your world, it's not transactional. They're there. Then those are the people, not all of them. So I've got a couple now where like there's two that have shown me through their actions, this is a safe zone. This is somebody that I can go to and not do what Kaylee used to do and create false intimacy by sharing everything about my personal life and all the attacks I'm going through and whatever. There's only a few people that get that. But there's layers. Like there are things I'm struggling with in business, for example, or like my account doesn't look too healthy right now. Like what's going on? What things am I doing where I can either fix this and create a system or create a use case for a new product or something that I can offer to other people because we're all dealing with the same problems. But the point is going back to that network is so key. Where you have your safe zone out of maybe the big network, you have two of them or something, and then continuously engaging with them and saying, hey, here's where I'm at this week. What can I do for you to help? You have a new product launch line. Can I introduce you to my women network that I have over here? Or can I have you speak at a panel discussion that I have at some event that I'm doing? How can I help you get the word out about your goals? And then in exchange, because there's always an exchange, but it doesn't have to be like completely unbalanced. It can be unequal trades of value too, completely. I just need a quick idea. You need a quick email, done. But when you do give first and you give someone something, they are more likely, more often than not, to give you something back without you ever even asking for it or hunting for it. So if you're simply displaying to them and explaining to them, here's the challenges I'm bumping up against, they may not be able to teach you, mentor you, give you a class on it, whatever, but one of your 5 problems, they may have a contact. Again, you got to go through a person, so it's about who, not how. That person knows how to do that. Boom, go engage them and you're off to the races. Or maybe they have somebody, in-house for them that they've already gone through what I'm going through. Oh, we already have an in-house COO, asset manager, whatever that you're needing person, and they can give you a perfect model for someone that would actually be an A player that will benefit your business versus paying incompetent people who will show up and suck down the money vacuum, but they won't ever produce anything. So yeah, just reaching back out to those safe people that you've created in those networks. So it's really important to have those networks with common goals in mind. So like people sometimes aimlessly, I've seen them just go randomly add themselves to other networks. Like, oh, I'm just going to join this and go to their gala. Oh, I'm just going to go. It's like, but if you guys don't have the same mission, vision, values in mind, like it's going to be harder than to weed through all the people and find the one or whatever that may apply most to what you're looking for. Again, it's really important to be intentional with any relationship, intentional with, your lover or your friend or your network, what are we doing here? Like, what are we accomplishing? Like, are we just having a cigar, So for me, all of our things have had to adjust to what is the end goal here, for us, or for me, we want to create $1 billion invested by, for, and with women. And I'm like, if I'm hanging out at, I don't know, a fishing club 3 times, 5 times a week, that may not be the thing. You know what I mean? Being involved in a global network of women who already invest may be a better use of my time. And because they're already in the same mind space, they're dealing with the same challenges that I am. And so any solutions I bring to the table or that they already have, are going to benefit everybody. So just being intentional with like who you're spending your time with, in a sense of, are they on a train over here? So am I. Okay, we're going in the same direction, just maybe on a different car, looking for those kind of people.
Ah, that's lovely. So your goals, you mentioned $1 billion for women investors, something along that line. Would you say that is a major goal of yours?
That is our BHAG, or our big, hairy, audacious goal. So it's $1 billion invested by, for, and with women by 2030.
Wow, that's wonderful. I'm so happy to hear that.
Thank you.
Are you seeing a difference in women being bolder these days?
Being what?
Bolder, not frightened to take the risk to do what needs to be done to make their dreams come true.
I wish I could answer that correctly, because I'm so, as you know, I'm so young, right? I haven't lived around for even 40 years yet. So
Yeah.
I wish I could go back. And when I look at historical data, when I'm doing real estate deals, I'm looking to other people who are more senior to me. They've been around a long time. They've been through some real estate cycles to look at data comparison and talk about, okay, you can see these interest spreads over here. Okay, if you go back to 2009, 2007, like where were we at there? What does this look like comparatively? Because that's the best I can do, And so as far as talking to a woman who may have been born in like the 1950s or 60s or 70s, I don't know the answer to that question, because
I
would have to make it up, and it's not real data. The only thing that I've seen in my generation are 2 things, which are not weird, but they're interesting statistics. So one thing in my generation that I've seen is that we tend to have less financial knowledge than women that were, say, in the 70s or 80s, because of all of the technological advances that we have and all the apps we have and things that we do. We get lazy and we depend on all of this information just to be handed to us, versus reading a book and going out there and getting your information yourself, or for example, I tend to do this sometimes myself, where I'll, text a friend that I know has the answer. And luckily a few of my friends are, they want to see me really succeed in life. And so they're like, I bet you could Google that. I bet you could read a book on that. I bet you could. So it's not always about taking the shortcut, because there may be more auxiliary information I need than just that one answer. And I'll never forget it if I learn it myself. So the trend being that 80% of women in my generation tend to abdicate their responsibility to be able to know where their finances are or where they're going, or the responsibility of like paying bills, budgeting, etc., to their spouse. And so in past generations, it hasn't been that high. In past generations, women would be able to do it themselves, take responsibility for, again, balancing a checkbook, etc. So part of it, again, is the accessibility, our impatience with wanting things now, not willing to go take the time to go educate ourselves on things. And so if you have a spouse, for example, that is financially savvy, we're lazy. We're like, yeah, you figure it out. But then in that time, what we're doing is we're creating more financial vulnerability, not knowing what's going on. And we can't do our own thing and take care of ourselves. Say his legs fall off, say he passes away, say he becomes incompetent, say not incompetent, something happens to him. You can't do that. Like, both parties, I believe, need to be involved. And then the other trend, not only do we abdicate our financial responsibility, but on the good side of things, I tend to see that women that are in my generation tend to be more collaborative. So we tend to be okay with, that's our natural strength as women, is to come together, pool resources, get ideas, mastermind, if you will, naturally. That's like what we're really great at. But women in my generation tend to be more willing to do that, and take criticism in and say, okay, well, yeah, this is not the best fit for this. Okay, so we're going to test it like this. We're going to test it like this. It's all just about information versus, I don't know how to say it, doing what you think you should do, or hanging out with who you think you should be hanging out with, or doing something in your role or your position in your life that, again, it's kind of like gender specific. I should be doing this. I should be a teacher. I should be a CFO. I should be doing this or whatever because of this. I think we're a little more open now to collaboratively get information. And when we're bumping around on Facebook, for example, there's so many groups on Facebook where literally that's all it is it's a pooling of information together from a specific network to figure out, what am I doing, what's not working for other people, what is working, and how do we come together? Yeah.
Well, the collaborative part, I'm not surprised about that. As you said, women have always been the people that come together way back from the sewing circles, way back before my day, our grandparents' day. So that doesn't surprise me. Actually, surprises me quite a bit that women abdicate some of their responsibilities financially, or they don't think they have to learn it, and therefore they don't. That is really surprising, but interesting fact.
Yeah.
So this $1 billion dream that you have, is it investing in apartments all over the world, country?
So the $1 billion invested by, for, and with women, we're still obviously iterating and working on where is that going to come from. We just now started to be able to track it as a KPI. So right now the tracking is directly coming from the dollars that are coming into our real estate deals. I have a crowd fund that I think is about to go live today.
Cool.
That's another deal where instead of having to have a certain minimum that's normal to invest in real estate, this is related to real estate. We are crowdfunding for real estate, but instead of having to have an average minimum of $50,000 to invest, for example, you can get in with 20 or 15 or 5 or 35 or whatever, works for you at this time, because instead of waiting until you're later in life to start investing in IRA that now is self-directed, you can be like me at 21 and get going with 5K, so if you're not accredited. Because then you don't miss out on that compound interest curve your whole life. So,
well, that's cool.
So
you're much more evolved than I was at 21, and maybe even now.
So that no. So that it's just I've got this thing where I just learn all the time. It's just part of my human design.
Part of who you are.
So realizing that when we were taking investments that were at $50,000 a piece, I was counting the number of investors, and now we're counting the dollars of investment that's happening on behalf by, for, and with women. So in our deals, we either have a woman investing or we have a man that's investing in our fund where he has to bring in a mentee. So it could be a sister, a wife, a mother, a cousin, a neighbor, a girlfriend. I don't care, but just pick, I'm like, look, it's half and half. There's men and women. There's plenty of women to pick from.
Yeah.
Her onto your investment documents. She puts her email on there. Then once we close down the fund, which we're trying to actively get that done quickly here. Then once it's closed, essentially we'll be giving out login information for her to be able to read-only access all of the financial statements, balance sheets, reports with photos of all of our renovations, be able to essentially see how these investments work, because I have found that women won't even gamble with $1,000 if they don't understand what they're investing into. And women won't invest into a complex investment such as multifamily or what it appears to be if they don't have exposure to it. So a lot of people like me growing up, I didn't have any exposure to the stock market. My dad did it, but he locked his office door. So I never had any idea how it worked. And when I asked, it was, that's not for you. So if you just simply have exposure to these things, that becomes a learning experience, whether you're, because a lot of these investors don't need to be with me renovating. You know what I mean? They don't need to be picking the paint color. They just want to understand in general, if I put in this much money and we have a fire and we have a flood and people die, and then this happens and the operators do this, we can still make it profitable. Okay. That's what risk means in this sense. So we just want more women to have exposure to the education on it. And then also we have some dads, for example, that have invested, say they've got like 5 daughters. They'll start an LLC, put all 5 of them in there, and then essentially, depending on their ages, be able to either pay them out once the investment goes full cycle, or be able to, on their behalf, keep funds for them, whether they want to put it in an educational savings account or whatever they want to do with it. But it's on the behalf of those shareholders in the company. So some dads have done that, some dads have not, some have just done it and then given access. I've got one guy that has like a whole female basketball team. He's a coach, and he's like, well, they can have access to this. So now we're counting the number of accessory people and those that are investing the dollars, and then the people that are being added to learn in their portals, and then also the dollars that are invested. So the crowdfunding offering just made it to where I could access more people because you can publicly advertise and talk about it everywhere. Same thing with the other side. So there's 2 ways to get into the fund. If you're not accredited, it's crowdfunding. If you are accredited, we have another portal basically you go in through, and again, we're counting the dollars that way as well. So this is one way to get that money counting, and here's another way. So we're holding a conference in November as well in Dallas. It'll be at the Gaylord Texan, November 11th through the 13th. It's called Women in Foreign Direct Investment Summit. And what we're doing is we're taking foreign investor money from women and we're bringing it to the United States and partnering it with real alternative asset investments. So for example, if they're like, well, I don't know how to invest in precious metals in the United States, you're like, okay, we have a full panel session on that. And you can either leave the session investing with the sponsors that are on stage, or we have an educational program that we have become an affiliate with at the back of the room that you can continue to learn once you leave the conference, but you have to take action. So this conference is another way that we can track all of the affiliates that are then investing with us or investing with the partners that have then come to present at the conference, getting them exposure to these other asset classes so that we can diversify. And then also in our other group, Women Who Invest Council, we talk quarterly or speak to each other about our investments, no matter which category they're in, how they're doing, how much we invested, stock tips, like what are we doing? And we can invest with each other. So that also counts as dollars invested by, for, and with women. So we're just trying to find every creative way to go, well, how are we bringing in money from women into investing in real assets?
I absolutely love it. Audacious idea, and it's going to happen. I can tell you. Yes, it's definitely going to happen. Before we go, I want to make sure people can find your crowdfunder, and also if they're going into the portal that you mentioned, or they just want to find you and learn more, how would they do that?
I think if you're interested in getting involved in investing, and you can, no matter who you are. So if you're familiar with the accredited definition, what that means is typically, it's changed last year, but point is it's typically like this, where you have $1 million net worth minus your primary residence, or you make $200,000 a year as an individual, or $300,000 as a couple, or you have a company, business, LLC, S Corp, Indian tribe. There's a whole list of things that are 5 million holdings in assets plus. Or if you're an employee of a fund and you have sufficient knowledge, or if you are a financial advisor with your Series 65, 83, and like 72, I believe, license. There's 3 licenses that if you have any of those things I just mentioned, you are an accredited investor. Okay. So I'll give you a website where you can go and then you can choose the button, I'm accredited or I'm not. And I'm not everybody else. So that normally wasn't the case. Normally, you still had to fit like a tranche or a set of criteria to invest if you weren't accredited. But now with crowdfunding, it's like, I mean, the crowdfund is named after my grandmother who just passed away, because I was like, I want everyone to invest, even your grandma, like that was the idea. So it's essentially theapartmentqueen.com.
I love that.
/fund/.
That's easy to remember. Theapartmentqueen.com / did you say another fund? Yes.
Yep. Yeah. So then it'll let you choose if you're accredited or not. And then if you aren't sure, then you just, get rid of the pop-up and you keep going through the page, and it will explain why we're doing what we're doing, investment thesis, where we're investing, what returns you get, your share classes. I mean, all the things I think you'd need to know to make a decision. And then obviously buttons of where to go to the appropriate portal, depending on if you're accredited or you're not. Those buttons will bring you to the right website.
You are exceptional. And I thank you so much for being our guest on Icons of Real Estate. I so appreciate it. Thank you so much, Kaylee. Hang on a minute, but let's say 100%. Goodbye. Okay, bye-bye now.